welcome if this is your first time on this channel. If I look happy, it's because I am. I've been having so much fun preparing for this video, listening to the old original Quad 303, which I've had on loan from Transtech, the quad distributors for the Benelux and I think other countries in Europe as well. And they very kindly lent me a fully restored original 33, as you can see here. They've kept all the original boards, just replaced the components with correct, up-to-date modern equivalents. And I'm full of it. I'm very happy, very excited, and I'm really looking forward now to sharing with you my experience with the old one and indeed the new one. Okay, so first of all then, what do we know about the old original 33? Okay, it won a Design Council Award in 1969, and it had all sorts of wonderful features, which I'll show you in a minute, like removable modules for the inputs, and it had a tilt function, which I explained in my previous video, but it's a very clever system so that the pre-amplifier, so if you wanted to adjust the volume, the bass and the treble, instead of going separately, what you could do is you could use a tilt function, which Peter Walker set at 750 Hertz. And basically when you tilted it up, you got a little bit more bass and a little bit less treble, and it was nicely rolled up and rolled down and vice versa. And this meant you could just smooth things off. It was very subtle. It was just 1 dB and a notch at a time, but it had a really nice effect, one which they still keep today. Its total harmonic distortion was really, really low for its time, like 0.0005% or something ridiculous like that. The original 303 power amp was 45 watts into 8 ohms, which in those days was a lot. It ran cool, which was a massive advantage because the transistors in those days were very temperature sensitive and they could easily start distorting or acting up when they got too hot or were not running at the right temperature. And Peter Walker, which I talked about in our previous video, came up with a brilliant design which was called this triple output design. Quite how it works, I don't know, and it would be too complicated to explain here for me anyway. And it meant that when the output, no matter what happened to the ambient temperature, because imagine if it's stuck in a rack in a BBC outdoor broadcast truck or something like that, and it was getting really, really hot, the thing needed to perform as it should. And in fact, the BBC bought a lot of this equipment. Just talking you some numbers here, there were 120,000 of these units sold and 94,000 of these units sold. And this was on the market for 18 years. Can you imagine? So that was the old one. And let me just put my gloves on because I'm just borrowing this, and these really belong in a museum. When I'm borrowing equipment, I kind of like to make sure I don't leave my grubby fingerprints everywhere. Because they will end up going somewhere else. Let's just have a look at the old one for a moment here, the old 33. And this is what I was saying. Now, there are a lot of filters on the front here, 5, 7 and 10K. And this was quite unusual for that time, especially if you're playing 78 records and things like that. These were quite handy. And then you had the bass and treble and whatever. And then this is your volume and on-off control. And here you have mono and stereo, which is quite a normal kind of lineup. And this lit up beautifully. I'll switch them all on and put some pictures in. Now, but on the back, now you have all these DIN sockets, which are these 5-pin and DIN sockets. And I remember burning my fingers soldering up leads in the old days for these sockets because it was cheaper than buying them off the shelf. But here you see, you've got these removable modules. Now, I'm not going to take them out, but these cards, these discs adapters, they slide in. So, for example, if you had a 78 pickup for playing old 78 shellac records, and a modern one, or a crystal cartridge and a moving magnet in those days, you could actually get Quad to make you a little circuit that would be ideal for this setup or your cartridge. and you could literally pull them out and push them in. It was a brilliant system. So this was your disc input, this is your mains input, these are your power outlets, so you could power your power amplifier straight from here, and that was, you know, obviously saved a lot of wiring and kept everything neat. Peter was really into keeping everything neat, and this is before the days of remote controls, don't forget. Now, what do we have on the power amplifier? Let's have a little look at this guy here. Here's the back, and I think the back looks really lovely. It's a lovely use of colour, which is sort of timeless. Here we have the speaker outputs. This is where the lead comes in from your pre-amplifier. This is where the power comes in. This is where you set your volume, your voltage, sorry. So it's very simple. But it was, you know, a very thin metal case, and very cleverly, lots of ventilation on the top. I'm going to lift it like that so you can see that. Lots of ventilation here, but of course that ventilation did mean that dust would get in, and later on with the Artera series they solved that problem by putting a glass cover over the top. But the very clever thing was that he put the heat sinks at the front here, which meant that if this was put into racks, this could stay cool. The idea of putting the heat sinks on the front was a very, very, very clever idea. So that is the old 33303. And at the end of this video, I'm going to play some music clips through the old one and then again through the new one. And then you can decide which one you think is best, and would you either go and buy a second-hand one or would you buy a new one? And I believe that this one is actually for sale. So it is still possible, and there are lots of people who restore these things. But let me grab the new one, and this, my friends, I think is absolutely fabulous. This is the new box. It's almost exactly the same. It's slightly deeper than the old box. It is beautifully made. The aluminium casings, everything, and there's little screws here which are with a little bit of chrome, beautifully done. I mean, it looks fabulous. As always with Quad, a really good quality on-off switch. And then your balanced outputs, your balanced inputs, a nice array of phonos, so you can put a moving magnet or moving coil straight to this. You can put your CD player, whatever other devices you want. You've got room for 3 other devices. Plus you've got your balanced in, so if you've got a really high-end DAC or something like that, you can plug that straight into here. You've got the trigger, which means that if you connect that to your power amplifier, then that will automatically switch the power amplifier on when you switch the preamplifier on. Also, another nice little thing, there's a voltage. You can change the voltage from 240 to 110. It's behind a little screen here, so you can just unscrew that. And if you move from America to Europe or vice versa or a different thing, you can just do that yourself. It doesn't need to go back to the factory. Nice gold-plated pins, everything about this feels great. And I'm going to switch this on in a minute, and you'll see all the different glows. You can set how much this glows at the front. And it seems to me that when Quad said to the design team, let's make a retro 33303, that basically they landed the gauntlet. Now, what could have happened, and what I was worried about, hence the title of this video, is that this would be just some kind of retro classic gimmick, you know, and just with some sort of a cheap electronics in it to make it look sexy, but not necessarily sound brilliant. Was I wrong? Was I right? We will see at the end. But the design brief apparently was that it must be better than the original. But okay, the original is so old, maybe that's not that difficult. So how do they go about it? Well, in the UK, in Huntingdon, Quad in Huntingdon, where it's always been since 1941, Rob Flane, who I think is the head of servicing or engineering, but I've certainly spoken with him in the past when I've sent some of my old quad equipment back to them. He was the guy who was replying to me. So there's Rob Flane and Paul McConville. Excuse me, I'm reading from the notes here. These are the two really experienced quad service engineers. They were brought into the design team. And if you want to design something that's reliable, high quality, you need to bring your service team into the equation, because these are the people who really know what's what with equipment, especially as it gets older. And then they used John Ertner. Now, Jan Ertner, sorry, he's been working apparently and doing designs for quad for 30 years and also working on the Audiolab designs. Now, he's mentioned in this book too, and this is a book on quad, the closest approach and this is by obviously Ken Kessler, and I've read this book. It's a lovely book, and it really explains the whole history of quad and its products and everything that it did. I can highly recommend this if you're into this kind of thing. Makes a nice present for a hi-fi enthusiast. Anyway, so Jan Ertner was brought into the team, and Peter Comeau. Now, if you know Peter Comeau, maybe you recognise the name from Wharfdale and the acoustic loudspeakers. Those are really his thing. So obviously it's good to bring a loudspeaker designer into the amplifier design. I say that myself because we're busy designing amplifiers, and the design team, the electronics team, are always bringing me in so that I can give it from a loudspeaker's perspective, of course. And then David McNeil, the industrial designer, also been with quad for 20 years. So he understands, it's in his blood, what this is, what this means. And they've done a phenomenal job. It's really incredible. So what does this thing do? This is very similar to the Artera in as much that you can basically, from the little remote control, which is this one, it's nice, it's made of plastic, but it looks very, very good. I've got a plastic remote control from Quad from 1987, and it's still working fine on my desk. And it looks lovely. It's got a nice little thing. It's nice to hold. And from here, you can control everything, that little control. But basically, you've got the tilt function, which I discussed about earlier. You've got bass and treble if you want to change that. I didn't really feel the need to do so. You've got obviously you can adjust how bright the backlight is or whether it goes out after a few seconds. Your tone controls, you can switch from your inputs, 1, 2, 3, XLR, and also your phono stage. And on the front here, next to the little sensor for the remote control, is a good headphone input, and it's got a good headphone amplifier in it. It's perfectly acceptable, actually. Now, so that's basically it. And this, of course, is your volume control, and that's working really in the analog stage. It doesn't interfere at all. It's a good Alps control, very high quality. And I have to say, I gave it the ultimate test by connecting my Riga Naya turntable with the Avalon 2 into this phono stage, and that has a very, very low output. So I didn't really expect anything spectacular there, but it was very, very quiet and very acceptable. Was it the best I've ever heard? No, but it was very, very acceptable, and certainly with high quality moving magnets and slightly higher output moving coils, it would be perfectly adequate indeed. Still, I have no complaints about it. But let's look at the new 303, the power amplifier, comparing these two guys together. So, first of all, what we see is the team have kept the original idea. They made the slot smaller and they put a double layer in across. That also stops hairs and things like that from falling in. They've kept the same idea of getting the heat sinks right to the front. This is so solidly built. It's unbelievable. I mean, I'm just going to have a little bit of fun here. the quality of construction, everything, this is another level. It's really dinky with this little on-off standby button on the front, but again, you don't need to switch it on because you can hook it straight to the preamp and then that will deal with that. At the back, of course, a good quality on-off switch, something I always really like on the power side, so you can really shut it down when you're on holiday. This is your balanced in, and obviously RCA, and there's the little button for switching between the two. Those are your triggers. And here you have your outputs, stereo, of course. But you can switch it to, if you prefer, you can switch it to bridge mode, or you can have it in stereo. Now that means that you can hook up two of these guys to have monoblocks. And it's phenomenal because as a normal operating stereo mode, we've gone from 45 watts into 8 ohms to 50 watts into 8 ohms. In bridge mode, you get a whopping 140 watts into 8 ohms with a very, very low distortion. It's really good. They're still using the quad triples, the same architectural design, but with new components, a new way of thinking, just improving that circuit design. And to be honest with you, the customer repair and support team together with Jan, they obviously know a thing or two. They've learned a hell of a lot. So it's not surprising that they can make something really, really special here. So how did it sound? To me, well, I will play some excerpts in a minute, but to me, I wasn't sure whether I was going to be disappointed or not. I was amazed at how good the old one sounded. I have to say the Pre is a little bit dodgy. I mean, the filter buttons, they sort of crackled a bit when you pushed them in, and they were a little bit uncertain. So I left all that lot off and just ran it through into here. And I was surprised how good it sounded. If I'm comparing it with the Par Slabs, I would say it's very similar. It's got a lovely sound. It's little sweetness in the mid-range, not overly coloured, dynamic, a good sound stage, not as wide, or should we say as exaggerated as a Sugden A21 SE, perhaps not that. It's not got that kind of sound stage, but it's really enveloping and it sucks you in and it's clean. And with the possibilities of, with the adjustment, especially on the new preamp, yes, everything you might want. Really, really good. So when I then switched over to the new setup, it was like, oh my God, I hope this is going to be good. And it was brilliant. It was really, really good. This preamp is so quiet. And of course you can adjust everything from the remote control. So the mute and even the backlight and the volume. And then you can use this lovely tilt function. And what I found was, just like the Artera before it, if you tilted with the Sibelius in this room up 1 notch, that's 1 dB lift on the bass, which is almost nothing, and a little drop 1 dB in the treble, it just smoothed everything out on the harsher recordings. And on other recordings, you could just bring it back to level. And you just do that by hitting tone button, tilt, back and down. And it only goes, maximum tilt is only 3 dB, but it was more than enough. It's so simply laid out with the different little inputs. It was easy to use. But what I really like is it's got a volume control, a little volume control here, because there are times, especially if I'm making videos here, you will see me with my left hand here twisting the volume control, because when I'm doing little talks, sometimes you just want to turn the volume down or up if you're nearby. Why wouldn't you? So I really liked that volume control, and it's extremely high quality. It didn't seem to impact the sound at all. I loved the sound of this. I thought it was really good. Was it better than just neatly through this? I wouldn't say necessarily better. It was as good, but with the features of the new preamp is a lot better than the old one. And so the combination of linking these two units together was really good, and something magical happened. So much so that I think it's a really, really good combination with the Sibelius loudspeakers, because the Sibelius don't need a lot of power. And I don't think we need a pair of monoblocks, these as monoblocks. I think in the stereo mode for the Sibelius loudspeakers, they were fine. Maybe I could try out adding another one to see what would happen. But honestly, they were dynamic, there was punch, the soundstage was nice, the voices were warm, slightly less warm, slightly more detailed than the Artera. But the tilt function of plus 1 dB, minus 1 dB solved all that. It wasn't an issue, it was something I noticed. And it's so good that I think for young people who are investing in high quality speakers and then saying, okay, what am I going to do? What do I want? This is going to be very high up on my recommendations because of the price. If I tell you that this little guy is 1,500 euros and you have everything. Okay, there's no DAC, but you've got a really good preamp, really intuitive, superb build quality, so you know that's going to last a lifetime. Couple it with the 303, which is also 1,500 euros. For 3,000 euros, you've got a fabulous system that will last forever. Now, I know some of my colleagues didn't really rave about it as much as I did, but there was something happening here with the Sibelius loudspeakers that I loved. And for 3,000 euros, what can you get? You can get a Sugden A21. You can get the Musical Fidelity A1 and have some money left over. You can't get an A21 SE Sugden, which is the one I preferred by a long way. And even if you did get it, you don't have half the functionality that you have here. No phono stage and all of those things. And it's sexy, isn't it? It looks great. I don't care what people say. I am of the belief that once I find a piece of equipment, I like the design, I like the philosophy, I love the quality of the build, even if it didn't sound as good as something better, I'm probably likely not only to buy it, but to keep it. And that's what's so important to me, is to keep it, that you buy once and you keep it forever. If I had to live with this on its own, I would miss my 170 amp. But the 170 amp, we don't know quite what the new price will be when it comes out, but it's going to be a lot more than this thing combined, a lot more. So it's on another level. And you know what? You could still use this Pre with that amplifier because it's damn good. It's really good. I would still probably, for this very, very high-end Naya Riga turntable with that cartridge, I would probably still put a phono stage in. And oh, by the way, in a few weeks' time, I'm going to release a video on comparing lots of different phono stages. So if you're interested in that, come back in a few weeks' time. We'll put the date of when it's released in the video here. So this is it. This, I think, is the most underrated combination on the market today. And I think that's why, regardless of what the critics say, Quad at the moment are struggling to make enough to meet market demands. And they are just selling way beyond their expectations. Adam, the marketing manager, said to me, Harley, when the team designed this, they thought it was for people of my age who were reminiscing back to the old days, would go out and buy it and they would just sell a few thousand, tops. What's happened is younger generation see this, identify that this is iconic in its looks, it's beautifully made, and it sounds great. What could you want more than that? And the total bill, €1,300. Yes, there may be a waiting time. I've had to wait a few weeks to get my hands on this one, because every retailer has been saying we need more, we need more, we need more. So that's a very good sign for Quad. And I really hope that this combination is what brings Quad back into the mainstream again, because it deserves to be there alongside companies like Luxman, Macintosh, and Acouphase, these really top quality brands. And the beauty is, because Quad have the production in China, the quality of the finish, it's iPhone quality basically. It's beautiful. You couldn't criticize it at all. You get all of that for a very, very realistic price. So yeah, for me, this is a lovely find. I want to try and buy one for myself, and I will give one as a moving in present to my daughter, because really it's such a fabulous thing, and I think it's something she would want to keep and own and be proud of owning for the rest of her life. But one last thing. When I buy a nice object, be it a piece of hi-fi or a new car or a nice watch or something, it's nice to have a user manual. Now, I know that a lot of companies put them online, and I think that's a great idea because it's easy to look up and you can get a lot of information. But Quad, you see, this is the user manual. It's beautifully made. Printing is so cheap these days. It's got a nice thick cover. The pages are lovely. It's beautifully laid out. And I think this is a testament to Peter Walker saying, look, we are making this equipment for human beings. We are making this equipment for people to enjoy and to feel proud of and to have a kind of relationship with the brand and the product itself. This is something, it takes a little effort, that I think deserves to be there actually in all equipment. And I find it so ironic that when you spend tens of thousands of euros on a single piece of equipment, and then you get a sheet of A4 black and white paper printed on an A4 printer, you think, that's a joke, right? That's disrespectful. And I know the argument is, yes, but we put every single euro of our investment into the development. Sorry, but for the price of the plug and the extension cable, you can print something nice that people can keep and, yeah, and be proud of. Because we're making this equipment for humans to use and to enjoy. And it's there to enjoy us listening to music. And music is about pure emotion. It's about engagement. It's about intellectual curiosity. And that's exactly what Quad understood from the very beginning, back in 1936, onto their hi-fi stuff in 48. And I'm so pleased to see them back in the race with something serious that everyone can get behind, from beginners right the way through.
I tried so not to give in. I said to myself, this affair never will go so well. But why should I try to resist when, darling, I know so well that I've got you under my skin. I tried so not to give in. I said to myself, this affair never will go so well. But why should I try to resist when, darling, I know so well
So if you have been, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy the music.